As tensions rise in the Middle East, the financial ripple effects are being felt far and wide. To help us understand how it might hit households in the pocket, I'm joined today by my colleague, Saoirse Hanley, who is the money reporter for Indo Money. Saoirse, so it's normally at this time of the year that people are booking their summer holidays, but it feels like there's kind of a watch and wait mood around where people aren't making any rash decisions.
Yeah, I think the travel aspect is twofold because obviously initially you had the immediate aftermath where you had people who were in the Middle East or particularly people who were in Dubai or the UAE and they were struggling to get home. Say their holidays might have been derailed or spent longer, or if you were somebody who was lucky enough to be holidaying in like the Maldives, for example, getting home was suddenly a very pressing issue and a very difficult one to circumvent because not a lot of airlines were flying out of those areas. But at the moment, as you're kind of wondering and reckoning with what comes next and how the industry is going to adapt to this and all of these kind of travel restrictions and changes, there's two ways that it's going to impact people who are booking holidays. So on one hand, you have if you're somebody who was doing any kind of long haul travel, that is now totally it's been totally shaken up if you were traveling to or via Australia or Thailand or Japan, because a lot of these long haul destinations, they will go through places like Dubai or through Doha or airports that are based there, and that for now they can't travel through those, which means you now have to go maybe via America or different ways, and it's pressing airlines to have to provide alternatives, whether that's different airlines or it's a different flight plan or it's a longer flight plan or a more expensive trip. All of those things are going to impact that. So people are kind of waiting to see, you know, whether that's going to change. Plus the fact you have every airline that uses jet fuel, which of course is all of them, to fly those planes, because of the cost of energy going up, it now means that a lot of that will be reflected in the price of your ticket. So people are kind of wondering whether they should wait and book it when things calm down slightly or when we have a better idea of what's going to happen next. But then on top of that, you can't even have a safe bet of going to, say, somewhere in Europe, because if people are avoiding further and more long haul flights, they're going to turn to some of the more popular destinations in Europe, which therefore will push the demand up for those places, and it'll ultimately cost more. So I spoke briefly this morning with Polo Kyungla, who does our travel editing here, and some of the things that he flagged were that you have the restriction of the likes of Emirates, Etihad, Qatar Airways. All of their routes have been kind of pressed, and so the competition now has to pick up the pieces there. You also have the restriction of the airspace over the Middle East, which means those longer workaround routes I mentioned, which means burning more fuel, which is more expensive again, and the rising oil prices mean you have the rising airfare. I think an interesting point was that places like, say, Air New Zealand have already added things like fuel charges to the cost, but then you have the likes of Ryanair, say, who obviously are not flying to the Middle East, but what they have done is they have bought in lots of oil initially to hedge their bets that this is going to, you know, to kind of front load a lot of that cost, which means it should trickle down a little bit less or at least a little bit slower to the consumer and the traveller.
And it feels like that's correct, because I have been looking around in Ryanair. Now, while I haven't got a straight comparison for exactly what the flights were, they feel like they're in or around what they were this time last year. Have you been looking at flights at all?
Yeah, and it's actually something that Paul confirmed himself as well this morning, that he was kind of getting the sense that the likes of Ryanair, Aer Lingus, certainly within Europe, the prices don't seem to have been rising particularly abnormally. I was taking a look this morning. I'm just back from a trip that I took where the flights, a round trip to New York from Dublin, and I bought this in a sale last year, an Aer Lingus sale, and the total for a return flight was 330. And I got another email this morning about a new sale, and a lot of, I would have expected to be a little bit higher, but for a similar size, a similar length of trip and not a particularly popular time of year, it's not like it's the height of season or anything, it was up to 450. So it is a slight increase, but that could of course be because it was warmer weather, a nicer time to visit. It wasn't a particularly dramatic hike, but of course I guess we're not looking at some of the further flung destinations. It was interesting, there was a piece in CNN, and they got some input from Clint Henderson, who runs the Points Guy, which is kind of like a hub for mostly American based tourists, but it was using your points to your advantage for flights, whatever. And one of the things that he was saying is that if people are booking their trips now, and I thought this was interesting, that you should avoid going for just the lowest cost option. I think we're all guilty of thinking we don't need a bag, or we don't need that, we can go for the saver fare or whatever it is. But ultimately you might want to take a look at the small print in that, because it could mean you have less flexibility for things like cancellations, or if something does come up or your flight has to change or your hotel suddenly isn't open or whatever the reasons might be, you might be slightly less protected with that. So I thought that was a really good point, that even though people are maybe going to book now and hopefully get ahead of any further price hikes, it still kind of pays off to maybe be a bit more careful about
Yeah,
that.
great practical advice. So, where people are really feeling it now, really seeing it, is at the petrol pump, and if their home is heated by oil. Where are prices at right now?
Yeah, so if you think fueling a plane is expensive, fueling a car is also just as expensive, kind of relatively. So at the moment, you have in a lot of the forecourts around Ireland, the pumps are now reported to be going over €2. And as our in-house expert, Charlie Weston, has pointed out, which I thought was a really interesting point, he had said that €2 is the kind of psychologically interesting turning point, where your €2 is what a lot of us would associate with like panic stations, that it's really getting expensive now. We saw this during the immediate aftermath in 2022 of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. You had a huge increase like that, over €2 at the fuel pump, which caused panic for a lot of people, because as we're all well aware, we're in a cost of living crisis already. The last thing people need, the last thing families need, is an increased price when they go to fill up the car, because as we've talked about it before, you can't just not fill your car. You just have to put the petrol in the car, and that's just the way that if you want to get anywhere, particularly if you've got a long commute, all of those things. So that's definitely increasing. But I think a huge impact of it is, of course, the cost of heating your home, because you have the cost of oil has gone up, the cost of gas has gone up. I think for 500 litres of oil for heating the home, what would have initially been around €400 to €500 is now over at the moment about 800 or €850 per 500 litres, which is like almost a doubling of what it was. And that's
And it
just
happened suddenly as well. There are reports of price gouging, and it was pretty significant almost overnight for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think that the interesting point of that is that once gas prices rise, electricity prices tend to follow. I think what's happening a lot in discussions about any of the financial fallout of this is so much of it is circular, because you have the gas, electricity, you have, which is in turn going to impact fueling of delivery trucks, which is in turn going to change how much it costs to deliver something, to produce something. You have, whether we can get oil out of where we need it from, whether it's going to get here, how much it all costing, how much then we're able to spend on food, how much the food is costing. All of it is so circular, and it's hard to know really how you can kind of protect your own pocket against it.
Absolutely. And it's not just oil and gas. Like I was reading today about helium, coming through that strait as well. And the fact that they can't get their hands on that, it's going to have an impact on the semiconductor industry. So there's the other, like I said, there's so much
I was
to
reading it's even like the chemicals that go into making plastic to produce packaging, which is in everything. As we well know, there's plastic in everything. There's that, the production of tea, the production of coffee, the movement of these items, whether they can get to where they need to go, all of that is impacted. And I think in Ireland, about 80% of the trucks that transport items and goods and produce around Ireland run on diesel. So all of those are going to now be impacted by that. That's now going to cost more. All of that has more. And also even the stuff that we're exporting, we export a lot of our beef and our dairy, obviously. All of that's more expensive. But even coming from the Middle East, like there's a fertilizer that people use for crops, things like animal feed, all of that. I think a lot of us maybe wouldn't have been aware of how much is impacted by that, but so much of what we get and we produce and that we have, is in some way coming from somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah, yeah. I would say the EV and solar panel owners will be feeling quite smug right now.
I think so. Anybody who was protesting all those wind turbines, I think will be wishing we had a few more of them at this point.
Yes, yes. So I was on Google Trends this morning, and I thought it was interesting. One of the rising search terms is Iran war, mortgage rates. So that seems to be the big fear for people. They're just waiting. And, because a lot of people, they can't squeeze any more out. They really are. They're pushed to the limit financially. What's going on there? Does it look like an interest hike is likely?
Unfortunately, it seems like it is coming. In fact, in the UK, it's something that people are already seeing. Gabrielle Monaghan wrote about this very recently, and that she was talking about how any inflation is going to push up those interest rates. Could mean a much higher hike for people to be paying back each month. And a lot of UK lenders have started this. The European Central Bank is to meet on Thursday, but it is expected as early as this year or early next year that a lot of those hikes could happen. It could be up to 0.5% to 1%, which, is, as you're saying, for people that are already quite squeezed, people are already trying to get as much as they can out of their wage. That is a huge impact. And I think a lot of the question marks that come with this is how long for? Can they expect those interest rates to come back down again? After how much time, after how much money they would have spent on that? You just don't know. So I think it's expected that will have an impact.
Pensions and investments. What kind of impact could this have? Could that trickle effect trickle all the way down?
Yeah, it's another kind of one of those, I want to say hidden impacts, but it's not hidden at all, of course, when it comes to your money. But I think it's something you wouldn't initially expect. But anything that involves the stock market is obviously going to, experience that volatility that the market's having too. So on one hand, you have a kind of two things happening at once, where you have surging energy prices. So you have that going on, but then you also have, the kind of the fog of war descending on that, where you don't really know how the stock market is, what areas are working. I think a lot of people who might have investments in funds or in ETFs, certainly for pensions that are invested in those, there is a slight question mark over that, of how profitable that's going to be, how returns are going to be. And I think while every bit of, I suppose, every shake-up that the stock market is experiencing will then trickle down to the investments that are there. So I think a lot of that is also kind of all to play for, really.
And yet gold is kind of holding steady. We did have it did pump there maybe about a month ago. Crypto is kind of eking its way back up. Bitcoin's going back up again. So it's interesting. You wonder, are people kind of looking at it as this store of wealth, or kind of get their money off to the side?
Yeah, there's some kind of image that it conjures of like gold being hidden in a bunker under the house that somehow will withstand all of the kind of financial hurricanes that are trying to batter it, I think.
Yeah. Do you think the government are going to intervene here? For example, they might, reduce the excise duty on petrol. Do you think that could happen?
It's interesting because at the moment the government have ruled out anything like a mini budget. They've said that they're not going to be making any measures like that or any kind of big planning like that. But we did see in the past, like after the Russian invasion, you did see those energy credits that came in, that reduction in taxes for people. They were kind of built into the last few budgets. It was obviously something that was missing from the budget last year, which was this fuel cut. But I think there's a sense that they will have to intervene in some sense, whether it's a targeted approach or something more universal. I think it's perhaps getting to a stage where that's slightly unavoidable, because there are, as has been reported widely for the last few years, there are families that are really struggling in Ireland. There are people that are struggling in Ireland just to make ends meet month to month already, without the price of their fuel going over €2 per litre, without the heating the home coming to more, without we're lucky in a way that we're coming into the slightly warmer months, but in Ireland that's never a sure thing. So all of that is likely to go up. So I think to avoid it would definitely not, I think, hit well with the Irish public, and I think it probably behooves them to step in a small bit. But I think there's a question of what that will look like.
Who is most affected, would you say? I'm kind of thinking to myself here, it's the tracker mortgage owner, it's the person who drives a petrol car. It's the person who heats their home with oil. So some people will be very affected, I guess is what I'm saying, and some people won't feel it quite as much.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we're saying that in the sense that it's not the person who was hoping to fly business to Dubai this summer. Like, it's really not in any way kind of, quote unquote frivolous spending that's impacted. It's everything. It is, the person who's just who commutes huge amounts each day because they live on the commuter belt, or they, have quite far to travel to get to college or to work or to any of these things. And then like that, it's anyone who's trying to heat their home with oil or gas. I think, as you said earlier, anybody who has maybe transitioned to the likes of solar panels or things like that will have a slightly easier time of it. But I think it's something that's going to impact a lot of people, because you don't eat. There's kind of conflicting reports about how much it's going to impact like the food on our shelves. In some ways, there's talks about how it's going to have a huge impact and further drive up the cost of groceries and all of these things. You have, for example, Sean Pollock had a piece over the weekend where he spoke to Tom Keogh of Keogh's, the crisp brand, and from an industry perspective, he felt that there's unlikely to be a huge impact on the grocery shop shelves, purely because the food industry has been braced against a lot of changes in the last few years, and this might just be a blip in that as opposed to a kind of seismic change. But I think it's easy to assume that in other ways all of what we've talked about will somehow trickle down to the cost of just everyday goods. So I think it's anybody who's going to be doing a big weekly shop and driving there to do it and all of these things, all of that is now going to cost more. And I think, the travel and the holidays and things that we like doing are one part of it that might go up, sure, but I think all of our day-to-day expenses are likely to climb up too.
So if mortgage rates increase, and unfortunately it's looking like they will, and the price of fuel continues to go in the wrong direction, people are really going to have to, sit down with their budgets and make cuts. What do you think will be cut first in most households?
I think it'll force people to really reckon with what's actually a necessity, as I think a lot of people will have done anyway in the past couple of years, but certainly something like this does push that over the edge slightly. I mean, we've talked about the fact that your car will always need fuel if you want to drive it. You need a roof over your head. You need food for you and the people that you are responsible for feeding. And then outside of that, it probably does come down to things like entertainment, or things like, I'm looking now at my nails that cost a certain amount every month. That would probably go if I needed to, make sure that I was heating my home or ensuring that I had, food for me and my family. It's the things like you are maybe looking at your health insurance, at what it covers and what you could, realistically bring it down to. You could be looking at things like the subscriptions that you have, whether or not you want to keep paying for both Netflix and for Prime or whatever it is. You might want to start cutting back on that. I think it's probably all the things that people have maybe thought they needed to do for a little while in contending with a lot of the cost of living crisis, but maybe didn't have the impetus to really go and do immediately right now. I think when you're really, really faced with price hikes in this sense, every aspect of your life, I think that's where it really forces your hand at that.
The other thing that's going on is people coming back from the Middle East, people coming back from Dubai, from Abu Dhabi. Do you think that'll have an impact on, say, the jobs market here?
Yeah, it is interesting because you do have the sense of, okay, if costs are increasing for everybody, for businesses also and for companies, and that, in looking at their overheads, maybe there'll be job cuts. All of those things are questions that are very important questions to be asking. But the flip side of that is, certainly in Ireland, we would have a lot of nurses, doctors, teachers. A lot of those people from those industries will move to Dubai or to the Middle East, or just further afield like that. They could be going to Australia via the Middle East, all of those things. And with some of those plans, I suppose, going up against a wall for the moment, you would wonder whether that means that a lot of those professionals will be staying in the country. And it's something that I don't think necessarily would push up demand for the jobs, in the sense that in many ways, certainly for nurses and for teachers in Ireland, we're crying out for people to do those jobs. So in a sense, it could kind of work in that favour, where you have people that we desperately need to be here staying here and maybe doing those jobs. But it could, I think it's something that could maybe go either way, because, like that, if you have companies that need to suddenly cut costs, we're obviously a country that has a huge amount of foreign investment, has a huge amount of companies that are based here. We would feel the ripple effects of that if there was, big changes. We have seen that before when the likes of Intel or Apple or Meta or any people, when there's layoffs there. So I think it could kind of seesaw either way, really.
So for you today, where are you feeling it, if at all?
I think and this sounds like a really privileged concern to have, but there are certain trips that I have planned for later in the year, and they're just to places in Europe, and I might not have booked a flight for one leg of it or the other. And my immediate fear is that I should be rushing to do that now and to book them in before the prices go up. But as we were saying earlier, some of the advice is to just wait and see. Other advice is to go and do it right now. And I think if I was to come across the likes of a good sale, so like that Ryanair, who we were saying have bought in a lot of oil in advance, they also have been having some good sales, kind of selling off a lot of the tickets that are cheap anyway. Part of me has, I suppose, the want to jump on those while they're there and just have it sorted and not think about it. So for me, that's one. But I say that's a privileged position to be in, because I'm not driving a car every day. I'm not worrying about the price of fuel at the pump, because I'm not there very often. So I think that for me is maybe something that I'm thinking about. And I suppose certainly if I had any investments, it would be where they're going and how secure they would be.
Saoirse Hanley, thank you so much for joining me.